Hey everybody, this is Mang, and I was going to put together a little wind tutorial. I guess the first thing we should do is we take a look at our bag. This is my random extra mile farming account, because I was curious how many chests it would take to get to an EM6 and EM7. But in any case, if we look at our club stats, we can look at power and accuracy, which are the two main determinants for what your wind per ring is going to be. So power, obviously, is how far you can aim the club, and the further you shoot, the more time the ball spends in the air, so the more wind that affects it. And accuracy is how large your bullseye rings are. So the less accuracy, the larger your bullseye rings, and so the greater your wind per ring number. It'll take fewer rings to move more yards to account for your wind. You don't really need to get that much into the math other than you really want to know by heart or with a note sheet what your min and max and probably mid wind per ring numbers are for your club and for your power ball. And you could generate these with a wind chart from golfclashnotebook.io, for example. It's a really nice website. I have an Excel spreadsheet that I sometimes play with in front of me, but I play pretty well without the spreadsheet. In any case, let's get into a game, and I will show you how I actually adjust for wind rings. I'm just going to play Tour 1. If you are good enough at adjusting for wind rings, you should be able to put it in the hole. Okay, I'm going to intentionally aim just about here, curl a little left. So I'm going to keep this left edge of my yellow circle outside of the rough, just in case I grate left. And I might overpower slightly, and I'll curl left to sort of try and get this up the hill. Maybe like this. Got a little fringe glitch rolling up the hill, but we'll have an easy chip. Dunking with the down and one, go for it. So at this distance, he should be correcting for his down and one about a ring at least, so this might very well miss right. With the great right, I think he definitely missed. Oop, just barely got in there. So the full distance of a wedge is 45 yards, and we can zoom out and check that. Right, here's 45 yards as a transition between a wedge and a short iron. So the fact that we're only aiming here, right, is only about a quarter of that, maybe not even, which essentially quadruples our wind per ring number. And so if our normal wind per ring for a dart would be something like 2 at max distance, at this min distance, our wind per ring number is 8, because we're aiming a quarter of the distance. Meaning that if you move 1 ring, you're accounting for 8 wind. And because there was only 2 wind or something, you really don't need to adjust for the wind at such a short distance. For the shootout, I want to aim up close. I'd like to land on the green for the most consistent bounce. The ball guide is simply more reliable if you land on the green. And if I put max backspin, it looks like I might just barely have a little rollout after the end of this ball guide. So this post bounce adjustment here, the ball is going to bounce a little to the right because of the 1.8, and because of my wind per ring and because of the elevation of the tee box, I'm going to want to adjust down to about here. pretty good shot. Might have been a slight left correct, but still a hole-in-one. So I just reviewed that shot, the hole-in-one with the backbone, 1.8 wind, and checked out my calculator. I had to make a quick adjustment to get the shot in on time, obviously, but I moved almost exactly 1.2 rings, which happened to be a good eyeball. And now, having put this into my calculator, a mid-distance backbone with a power 0 ball, 10% elevation modifier, 1.8 wind, would be a 1.17 ring adjustment. So I slightly over-adjusted. My shot was slightly left in the hole. The math works. As long as you know what the elevation adjustment is, and as long as you're good at gauging how far you've shot your backbone, you can put the ball in the hole. So let's open this pin chest and play a tour 2. See how that goes. So here I have my thorn 4. You can see min distance right here. So we're just beyond min. So my wind per ring is going to be something like 3.5. I'm going to go ahead and set 3 backspin up, and I'm going to put this ball guide right into the hole. Just past this third bounce, maybe slightly offset right because of the left wind. With 3 wind per ring, we're only looking at just under a half a ring. So this adjustment should be just fine. Great to the right, and you will see this miss nicely to the right. Clearly would have been in the hole if I didn't suck. Let's see, this par 5 with the dog leg left, we're going to put maybe 2 or 3 topspin on this. And we would just want to get a decent bounce and curl to the left to make sure we maintain the fairway. So if we expect to be pushed backwards about a ring, then I'm okay aiming up here, I guess. And do full left curl. It's good. It's fine to clip the rough. We're just going to have a wood approach, no big deal. This is unnecessary overpower. You really just want to keep it in the fairway. Because if you hit it in the rough, and you don't have a very nice rough iron, you're just going to have a bad time getting to the green in 2. Okay, so I have a Viper 8. Let's use the calculator for fun. 1.7 on a pretty much max. Definitely more towards max. Let's put some good backspin on this to slow the ball down. Ooh, look at that nice inconsistent bounce area. This is what you want to avoid. So we're going to play over here, and I'm going to curl it to the left because I like that green pattern better. So I'm going to adjust about over here. I'm going to need some left curl in order to straighten this back towards the hole. I graded left, so this is going to be left of the pin. Yep. Could have been good, but the perfect. That's okay. My calculator said a max distance Viper for 1.7 would be exactly 0.85 rings. It's almost exactly 2 wind per ring. And that's coincidental because the Viper has like 60-ish accuracy, but it wasn't aimed all the way at 180 yards because Viper 7 doesn't get there, Viper 8 doesn't get there. Easy putt. And then here his unfortunate rough drive bites him where he doesn't manage to make the green in 2 and barely misses his wedge. So that's that game. Let's play a tour 3. Okay, I have a couple options here. The simple thing to do would be to just drive in front of this bunker and maybe curl to the right. But the fun way to play this is a power slice, so we'll do that. So with my normal adjustment, I want to land here-ish, and then curl to the right from there. Right, then I'm going to put a ring to the right, and then I'm going to adjust left 13 rings. 5, 10, 13. Take this, full right curl, full overpower, full right slice. Smack perfect. The M6, I feel pretty confident about the 13 ring adjustment with the basic ball. There are lots of factors that go into an accurate power slice. Elevation and distance modifier from a ball. But with the basic ball in the M6, 13 rings, quite consistent. There's some weird technical details about if you happen to aim to a higher elevation, your ball will carry a little differently because of all the curl changing your landing zone. And our friend here has rolled into the bunker, and because he doesn't have a Spitfire, he's not going to make it to the green in 2. What are we playing? We have a Thorn that is pretty much the fuller end. It's like a 2/3 Thorn. So if I put 3 or maybe 3.5 backspin, right, then I can land safely on the green, which is what I want to do. And I want the tip of my ball guide to actually be like in the hole. Pretty happy with that. And now my wind per ring adjustment, let's move this a little right, at 2/3 is going to be slightly more than 2 wind per ring, so I don't even need to move a ring. Let's do like this. Great left, and we will watch the ball be slightly to the left. Super. Name 3. I wonder if he has the driver to make the island bounce. Probably doesn't. EM2, not likely. So he's going to need to play left, and he probably can't even drive far enough to clear the gap on his second shot. So this is like a guaranteed birdie for him. I wonder if I can display the issue with shot elevation. So if you aim at this island, right, you can see the trajectory of my shot. As soon as I start dropping off this cliff, the trajectory of my shot goes really low. That is a serious impact in distance. This is way less distance than this, even though they're aimed at essentially exactly the same, linear distance away from my position. So it's extremely important to understand. Let me just make this safe shot. That the trajectory of your shot is a really big deal. If you happen to change your aim so that you land in a bunker, not land in a bunker, but if you change so that your bullseye is pointed down into a bunker that's like depressed, you have lost distance on your shot. And you need to make up for that by moving your bullseye forward or by overpowering or something. But the actual trajectory of your shot directly impacts how far your ball carries. And we're talking about, the height of the land you're pointing at with your bullseye. It's a weird ramification of the physics of the game. So here's his layup shot. I've seen some video clips of cheaters that are using, some application to modify the code. Usually they have to do this on a PC or whatever. But one of the cheats is basically it automatically fixes your shot to be max trajectory, meaning like you're pointed up into the sky. So your shot miraculously has just more power than it ever should. And so because I have 3 wind in my face like this, and because the elevation of this shot is very downhill, you can see the arc of this, how far down it falls. I'm going to have an extra wind effect, so I'm actually going to be back here is my intended landing zone. So I'm going to put a topspin on this to make sure I roll up here. I want to aim over here-ish, and then I want to correct up this way. This hopefully has a decent rollout. Spicy. I did a couple things in that shot besides just randomly eyeballing my wind. I intentionally moved my bullseye back a ring before I started to choose, my actual line. And that was because I had some headwind. I knew that if I actually wanted to try and aim so that my intended landing zone was the edge of my club, I would need to overpower. And I don't want to overpower. I'd much rather just add a topspin and have a normal needle speed. Okay, I like the shootout. My plan is going to be to play the rough bump directly between that fairway patch. Oh, am I going to have a gap like he does? I have a higher level backbone than him. Maybe I can still do it. But at pretty much all levels, unless you have very inhospitable wind, I would recommend playing the rough bump with some topspin and maybe right curl. Is he trying to backspin a Viper? Yeah, that's unfortunate for him. Alright, so I have 2.1 wind. If I were to play a backbone 9 here, it would be nearly max distance. There's max, and then back here is min, so it's very close to max. So let's do that. And if I put some topspin on this, and I'm going to put some right curl, right, we'll intend to land here and curl right, and that'll be safe. So this has a little elevation, and we can take a look. So I'm thinking, see how that's coming down a little? It's about 1.6 rings. So let's put it here, use the take shot button. We'll throw some right curl on this. We'll hit perfect. And the rough bump plays out, and this green just happens to be sloped so that you get a pretty decent roll towards the pin that way. It's a very nice shot to do with a sniper and a better ball from the second tees, but even from the first tees, if you have a long iron with enough distance, it's pretty much better than every other option. Unless you have a crazy tailwind and a very powerful driver, really the only thing you can do is play this right fairway. And you want to put left curl on it, which he is not. Hopefully he doesn't grate to the right. Grate to the left, he might even lick the rough here. He does, but he's generally fine because I don't think either of us have the equipment to make the green in 2. So let's see, I would actually rather land further right here than over here because this kicks you pretty far to the right. So I definitely want left curl, and our intended landing will be about here. I can probably put more topspin than this. So we'll just max the left curl here. if I had a Titan and Tailwind, I could probably make the green here in 2. The issue really is your ability to point your bullseye, with overpower maybe, if necessary, actually on the rock. Because if you don't have enough power to point your bullseye onto the island, then you're just going to have so much trajectory loss from not being able to actually put it on the ground that you'll never make it. Let's take a look. Yeah, see, because I can't actually put the bullseye there, you see my trajectory is so garbage. Like, this is almost exactly the same amount of power as this, right? I can aim all the way up here. This is technically overpower, and I haven't actually done anything better than aim here. That's how big the trajectory thing is. We'll just put a max backspin backbone here. That should be fine. This is pretty deceptive, but this is actually a very downhill shot. There's a lot of extra wind playing from here. I'll zoom in on the bullseye and spin around to show it when it's my turn. He's got a min backbone. Definitely wants as much backspin as possible. I might even be able to play a thorn, because I'm considerably further up than he is. Let's see if I can sink it. I'm going to call this a 40% elevation. There's a big jump from this rock that I'm on down to there. So I have a 1.0 massive wind, and I have a Thorn 4. I even have a dunk attempt if I want to do that. So if I did a dunk attempt, nah, I'm bouncing in the rough. That's too risky, right? We could do a 1-hop. Let's do a 1-hop. Right, so my second bounce needs to be in the cup, like it is right now. And then with a 1.0 wind on not quite max distance, let's call it a 75% distance, I have a half a ring, 055. So I'm going to do this, and we'll try and 1-hop this. Nailed it. For our wood approach here, we have what looks like mostly min, close to min. I'm going to put some backspin on this to slow it down. And I'm okay with this line. So we're going to offset this just slightly to the right. And a 3.0 with a min, let's call it a 20%, 1.26. So we're going to put this at 1 1/4. And hit this. And see how it plays. That's pretty close. Alright, I think I'm done for the night, but in general, the idea here is that you want to know the accuracy of all of your clubs so that you can make win per ring calculations on the fly. You don't need to be as precise as my spreadsheet can get. You just want to know that when your thorn is at min distance, you're dealing with something like 4.1 wind per ring, and then mead would be 305, and max would be 2 and change. Cool. Good luck, everybody. I'd love to hear feedback if this was helpful or what you'd specifically like to see. Thanks. Take care.